Hey fellow travelers, welcome to Connecting Over Coffee. My name's Louisa and today is Travel Tip Tuesday and I'm going to be giving you 5 movies where Paris plays one of the main characters. Movie number 5, Funny Face. This movie is about a reluctant and shy bookstore clerk named Joe Stockton, played by the beautiful Audrey Hepburn, who is convinced by fashion photographer Dick Avery, played by Fred Astaire, to come to Paris to be his main model. Besides a whole musical segment dedicated to Paris, this movie showcases Paris in each and every one of its photo shoots. Some fun trivia. All the costumes in this movie was designed by fashion designer icon Givenchy, whose muse was actually Audrey Hepburn. And also, the director of photography was famous fashion photographer Richard Avedon, whose life this movie is loosely based on. If you notice the characters, Dick Avery, Richard Avedon. Movie number 4, Breathless, or in French, A But de Souffle. This French New Wave film, directed by Jean-Luc Godard, is about a man named Michel who accidentally kills a policeman and is on the run. He seeks sanctuary with his American girlfriend living in Paris, Patricia. When Godard created this film, he became the accidental inventor of jump cuts. For those of you who don't know what jump cuts are, they're basically taking a long sequence and then cutting it up so that it kind of gets to the point a little bit faster. In Godard's case, he needed to cut the film down time-wise. It was just way too long. And so he's just like, well, let's just cut this sequence up to make it shorter. And so that's what he did. The accidental jump cut inventor. Another piece of trivia, this film barely had a script. The actors basically ad-libbed the majority of the film. The production was filmed on location in Paris and usually without permission. So if you watch the film in its entirety, you'll notice that no 2 film locations are alike. In essence, you'll never come back to the same location. Once they filmed there, they were done with it. And so it was filmed in sequence. Movie number 3, Midnight in Paris. This is one of my favorite films of all time because of all the Easter eggs for artists and writers like me to just kind of like find. This movie is about a writer obsessed with Paris in the 1920s, and he goes there on vacation with his fiancée. During a midnight stroll, he gets swept up into a vintage car with familiar characters and taken for a night he would never forget. This movie pays tribute to Paris in such a sweet and loving, affectionate way, both to the past and the present. Every time I watch this movie, I always feel the need to go back to Paris, and it's such a bittersweet feeling. Movie number 2, Amelie, or in French, Le Fabuleux Destin de Amélie Poulain. That's literally the title, it's that long. Anyway, this movie was directed by the fabulous and incredibly eccentric Jean-Pierre Jeunet. This movie is about Amélie Poulain, a woman of many habits, who discovers a child's treasure box in her home. After looking through the treasure box, she decides to reunite the box with its previous owner, which in turn makes her want to help others around her, neglecting herself. I love whimsical, and this movie has that in big doses. Not only that, but you get to follow Amélie around Paris, but most especially around Montmartre, which is this charming area in Paris. After watching this movie, you're gonna wanna have an Amélie adventure of your own. Movie number 1, Paris je t'aime, or in English translated, Paris I love you. This entire film is dedicated to Paris. In fact, the original idea was to have 20 short films in this one big film, each one dedicated to each arrondissement or district in Paris. But I think 2 districts just didn't work for the film, and so they just narrowed it down to 18. But essentially, it's an ode to each neighborhood of Paris. And each short film is dedicated by some of the top-notch directors of all time, filled with crazy famous actors, like big-time actors. And even though they showcase each neighborhood, each arrondissement of Paris, they don't do it in a very obvious way. The The story is still the main focus, but you can't help noticing that each aspect of the story revolves around Paris. Like, you just can't miss that. My favorite story, honestly, is the last one, which is the 14th arrondissement. It's a story about a postal worker, Margot, who goes to Paris for the first time alone. Margot's story directly translates the kind of feelings and visuals that I had the first time I went to Paris. And while her French is totally cringeworthy, it's also really endearing, because here's a woman who is so in love with the culture and the country that she wanted to learn French, and she does. So because of this story manages to find a way to touch my heart every single time I watch it. All right, y'all, so those are the 5 movies I have for you today on Paris as one of the main characters. If you feel like I missed one, let me know in the comments below, because I'd be super curious to see which ones I might have missed. So until next time, y'all, stay safe and stay traveling. Bye.